I'm Renu and I teach in a university.
What inspired you to read so many books?
I think I was an avid reader as I was growing up because I grew up at a particular place where there was no electricity. So obviously you had no access to television when you came home. My parents had this particular habit of getting us a whole lot of books to bring home to during our vacations. And then we had to read this choice, right? Read these books and exchange with each other. So that's how I grew up. So I guess that's what got me into reading.
And which is your favorite book?
I think I personally do not have favorites because I've read so eclectically. I mean, I can't claim that, I'm the best reader in the world kind of a thing, obviously, but I read too many genres and I don't have any particular likings or dislikes. There's so many books which I really like reading particularly, and recently I've been into graphic novels extensively. So I guess right now graphic novels are the things that I would like to read.
Can you tell me like roughly how many books you have?
Just here where I'm staying right now, maybe around 6,000 books. And if I count all the books that I have at home, maybe close to 7.5 to 8.
Why do you think the current generation, why there is no much interest in reading books? Is there any particular reason?
I think a lot of us have interest in reading largely, but I think we have too many distractions also, right? Maybe it is adaptations into movies or, movies themselves, which itself, can be quite a bit to engage with. I think, our reading habits have changed into different channels. But in a different way, we're still acquiring knowledge. We are still sort of, doing what we would have done if we were reading. Yeah, I might have judgments about, what is the better way of living kind of a thing. But I think everything has its own merit.
Why would you say it is important for them to pick it up in the first place? Or how should one go about it?
I think why they should take it up is largely the very simple reason it would sort of, enable them to understand the world a lot better. Right? Maybe it might enable them to be a little less judgmental about things, because one thing I noticed recently is that, people are quick to make judgments about something. So it might maybe enable them to sort of, think a little slower about certain things, maybe, not immediately jump to a certain conclusion about, this is how it should be kind of a thing. So you give them perspectives so that they can think through something. So you're not looking at the world through just one lens, which might be yours alone.
What kind of books would you recommend them to pick up?
If you're talking about an adult reader, it depends whether you're interested in fiction or non-fiction. If you're really interested in non-fiction and you're a beginner reader, I would suggest graphic narratives, because these days you have a lot of graphic narratives which engage with history, which engage with, let's say social issues right now in the world. So you have narratives like Shaheen Bagh by Ita Mehrotra, which is a very short graphic novel on the Shaheen Bagh incident, right before pre-pandemic. You have war narratives which are graphic in nature, right? You have Holocaust narratives which are graphic in nature. One of the earliest ones you could think about is Moss Art Spiegelman's. There's quite a bit. In fact, recently you have another interesting graphic narrative that's come up on the Syrian crisis, right? And about the future, it is called. It's by Riyad Sattouf. And he's also a brilliant graphic narrator. A lot of these narratives which come from different parts of the world, right, which is in graphic form, maybe that could be a starting point if they are interested in visuals and narratives together. But in terms of provoking your interest in reading, I think maybe the urge should come from within you. It could be different engagements, right? For me, after a certain point, it was not just about entertainment. It was about, knowing. Right, so I would read anything from philosophy to theory to history to non-fiction. But interestingly, if you really look at the collection that I have very little fiction. I have a lot more non-fiction than fiction.
How has all this reading helped you in your professional career?
Very immediately, it's sort of, it's about the kind of knowledge that you have and the amount of engagements that you can have in class through discussions, even if you don't bring in enough, even if I don't have to quote from things, at least perspectives are there in one sense. But in most times, right, it's not always evident, right? I mean, okay, this is there, but it's there working subconsciously within you, the kind of reading that you've done. So that gives you a certain kind of a confidence that you can talk on a lot of things, right? Without having to sort of, again, run and find out that information, because a lot of it could be to a certain extent available to you immediately.
Most people will have self-help books in their houses. Is that a good start to get into reading?
Self-help books. I mean, I must be the wrong person for you to ask this question because I'm not into self-help books at all. I do have one self-help book, which is Mary Kondo's The Art of Living. It's about decluttering and all of that, but it's still in the graphic narrative form. It's not Art of Living, right? I forget what it was called though. That's the only self-help book I have because I really thought, okay, fine, let's look at this because decluttering is one thing, I took in a lot of books I had, right? But I don't agree with her though, right? Because according to her, one of those aspects of decluttering is that, if you've not used it in 5 months or 2 months, right, then you don't need it. But these books are something I've not touched in maybe 2 years even for that matter. Because you read it, you keep it there. And she also has that same kind of an approach to books also. So somewhere it doesn't sort of, sit very well with me, that kind of decluttering. So my house is cluttered with books and, I sort of think it's fine.
I don't think it is cluttered at all. It is like very neatly organized. If you have anything more to share for beginner readers, or if you have any inspiration to share, do you have any words?
I think, one of those things I've realized over a period of time is that, the most important thing for us to do is that, not to have role models at all. And it's easier, if you just have books to guide you in certain ways because it gives you perspectives, like I said. Because, at least they don't have feet of clay. They don't fall off pedestals, right? It sort of retains things. So maybe that could be a motivation for people who would really like to come into themselves. That because you always keep looking at others and looking up to others, and you're always trying to reach somewhere, and it's not always possible. And you forget, who you are. So maybe that might possibly help with books. Books don't prompt you to become something other than what you are. At least that's the way I look at it. That's again a perspective. It could be about, let's say, finding your own perspectives or attempting to sort of, get a perspective out of the plenty of perspectives that they throw at you.
Amazing. Thank you for this beautiful interview. Thank you so much.